the results of the East versus West, number 8. And first question, everybody, welcome to the show. If you haven't hit the like, please do that. Subscribe, do that also. So Phil Woody, Clifton Erickson, Dustin, GB, Billy Berg, Sweden Arm Wrestling Television, everybody's in the house in attendance. Here's my question. And oh yeah, Scott, Ryan, Plexman, the whole shebang. My question would be this. Do you think we're at a point now where we need to change the name, the title of the event?
Now, what you're alluding to, of course, is the fact that the West have been kind of getting slaughtered for the past few events.
Yeah, dude, it's just, and I understood the concept when it first came out, and I still like it, but it's like, man, we are just getting blasted. Like, man, like just doesn't matter. And I'm like going, what the hell, What do you think, Ryan? What does everybody else in the chat think? Do we need to change the name before we get into these matches? Because it's like, what is going on over here,
Well, we had a few standout hopes. I mean, Jerry, we all had a lot of faith in Jerry, and, it didn't work out. We'll get to his match because I want to talk not just about his match, but the rationale and the posting afterwards. Because a very similar thing happened to Morozov, but we'll talk about that a bit later.
You called it, by the way. You called it.
I mean, it's a little weird for me that what do we got to do? Is it matchmaking? Because here's the problem that we now face. Let's say hypothetically, Hermes faces Devin and Hermes defeats Devin. Hypothetical situation.
Right.
What's left? Who do you then put against Hermes? If you're going to maintain the theme of East versus West, when is the next time we'll see a challenger for that heavyweight title from the West?
Good question.
Is it ever going to happen again? Or are we going to be years until we build something up?
Right. Because, I say that because the whole theme, and Rob's like, change the name. Haha, who is this guy? I guess he's
You're watching this show, Rob.
I guess he's talking to me. But the whole theory behind this, East versus West, and it's like going, you know what? Yeah, see? It's almost to the point now where it's more East versus East. And if that's the case, then why are we flying over there? I know we as a region, or how you want to say that, this side of the ocean, we want to compete against the best to see where we stand. And I totally get that, and I know for a fact there are guys on this side of the ocean that can get it done. We're just not doing it for whatever reason. And I sat there and said, you know what? What if all the guys from Team West, Canada, Brazil, United States, whatever, spent like 4 days together? It could be at Bob Brown's house to try to figure this thing out and go, what the hell do we have to do?
I don't know if it's that simple of a solution. I mean, let's face it. Let's take Devin Laird, for example. He's going to beat a lot of those guys. But then he starts to ascend to the level of like the Hermes, Dennis, and Levant. Those few guys. Mm-hmm. Those few guys can make just about anybody look pretty silly at times. I don't know if there is a thing that we can do other than, start to really build the next stars. But this issue is, here's a theory I have that I came up with in the last 5 seconds. So bear with me here.
Okay.
All of those guys have one thing in common. They start arm wrestling at a very early age. They are coached properly from that age through the ranks. They have, they go through the countries, the nationals, the Europeans, the worlds. They have international exposure and vast arm wrestling exposure before they ever try to be a pro. So if you look at these group of elite super heavyweights, on average, the Western ones are much, much older than the European ones. However, some of them probably have very similar exposure time in the sport. So is it an issue of we're always trying to jump to the finish line before we go through all the steps of developing somebody? Is that the problem? Because we don't see guys go through those feeder systems. We don't see a ton of our real stars going over to the world championships. We don't see that anymore because everyone wants to be the big star and get on the big stage. How many of those guys, like, I'll use Corey West, for example, because he's an up-and-coming guy in the United States. Has he ever attended a WAF or an IFA?
Not to my knowledge.
How many titles did Levon win at WAF before we ever heard of him?
Like 2 or 3, maybe?
But he was there for a number of years. He started, I believe, in 2010.
Right.
And competed through at least 2018.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, that's a good point that you bring up. And, you know, trying to figure this thing out, like you just said, it's not easy, you know. But there's gotta be something, because the last time I was really, really excited was when Paul Lynn, RVJ, Doug Ehrlich were on the same card, and those guys would have like a little mini podcast show leading up to the event. And I was like, okay, I'm really excited now. And it just didn't work out. And I don't want people out there to think that just because we take a loss that we're done. Like, don't give up on Jerry, because, I mean, Jerry was undefeated in East vs. West going into this event last Saturday. Don't give up on him, you know. Look at Corey West. He takes a loss, and everybody kind of just jumps off board. Not everybody, but it seems like the minute we lose, it's like they just hop off the bandwagon. You don't have to. You know, a lot of it's just matchups. It is, you know. So, but with that being said, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.